Okay, variables, assignment statements, etc. This would be a piece of cake. So we talked about variables, right? So I just used a variable x. So why we need variables by any means? So variable is more like, if you are aware with programming language, it's just a temporary storage of information. So you don't have to physically access the value that is stored in the memory. So you can actually access it by using a variable. That is one of the good reasons that I see. And of course you have to follow the format of assigning variables, so x equal to 5 is a valid statement, 5 equals x is not. It is a syntactic error. So variables should stand at the left hand side and value should stand on right hand side, and the operation will be at the middle. I mean the assignment operation. Print x prints the value of x, of course we've seen it before. So variable, after that it's assignment operation and the value. In Python, yeah, it's very common to see you can hold one value at a time. But if you use two variables, like that is an important feature that I came across. So if you use something like this, sorry, so this actually works in Python for some reason. This is an interesting feature when it comes to data science. So imagine that you can hold key value pairs like this. So we will talk about this later in data science focused topics, but for now, so I will just give you the peek of why this feature works. I mean, like, what this feature is about and how it works. So I never seen something like this in other programming languages, so you can do that in Python. Throwing that to there. So this is the flow of information. So you assign 5 to x and you overwriting with the value 2, so of course this will print 2. These are a bunch of examples you can actually. This is just how the data lineage happens. So based on the point in time it's been assigned, you have to make sure that what value has been passed to the functions. If there is a tougher example comes in, we can try with it. So yeah, maybe this one. Now it's easy. uh, so keywords, we have to talk about keywords, right? So we are talking about variables, and what are the things that we can't use as keywords? So print is a function, right? So I can't use print as a variable. Where is, okay, so if I'm using print, it is okay. Since I'm using the atom editor, it is explicitly mentioning that it is a function name by highlighting with violet, violet color. So my variables are represented in white and my values are in different color, right? So if I try to use print, I can assign the value 5 to 8, but the problem is the print function will be lost forever. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me assign print to something else and try to manipulate the way that it works. So I'm gonna overwrite print to a star, sorry, print to a string. So if I try to call print, do you think it will work by any chance? Let me show it to you. It won't, because the print is been overwritten with a string value rather than the function, so its information is lost. But if I try to do the foo thing, it will work. So you can do this, but it will break the inbuilt functions in Python. So I would highly recommend not to play with it. So I'm gonna just reassign what I did here. uh, So like I said, Python is loosely coded and you can play with it a lot. So make sure that you don't break things, or else you have to just completely uninstall everything, you have to reinstall it. This is just one of the examples that is shared to me. So don't worry about it. If you want to know the keywords that you want to see whether I can write it or not, just go to the keywords list. But of course keyword list doesn't contain print, but I highlighted it anyway. So there are other things you can't play with, like false, none, true, non-local. These are some of the some of the key words that you can't use even though they are not keywords. So don't play with it as well. And we tried the print. There is another function called execute. You can assign it, but again, don't try it. So these are some of the keywords in Python for your reference. You can also get it from the um, library function, which I show here. Yep, that's the same thing. So like I said, underscore, don't play with it even if you can. Variable cannot be a reserved word like true, null. We've seen that as well. And must starts with a letter or an underscore, but we mentioned that it's not a best practice though. So a variable should start with a letter, not a number. So we checked about what will happen if we try to play with the function. That is the print example that we saw before. So of course it is case sensitive. Python is case sensitive, so if you are assigning world with a smaller case w and uppercase w, it will be totally different. Yeah, give a reasonable name. If you're familiar with programming, just give some reasonable name so that we can read and understand, rather than giving bunch of A, B, Z. That's the best practice. Uh, these are some random things. So, what do you think? That is strongly typed or weakly typed? Is it Python is strongly typed or weakly typed? Any suggestions? Any comments? So, I would say weakly typed, but it's powerful though. So, that's my statement. So, you can come up with your own version of saying what Python is. But from my understanding, Python is loosely coded but a strong programming language. So these are the bunch of things we covered by far, and this is just a quick peek of what we did and what it looks like once we try all the functions that we know. Okay, so what do you think this one will print? This is a tricky question. What does it print? I try the same. No, I don't. It just print name. You got it right. Okay. So like I